This one. Pain is the proof you're still in the fight. If you can feel it, you can face it. If you're hurting, you're healing. Don't run from the pain. It's not a punishment, it's a passage. This keynote dives into how pain is not always your enemy. It's evidence that you're still in the battle, still breathing, still growing. Denzel's style often emphasizes resilience through hardship. So this keynote encourages the audience to walk through the fire and not pretend it doesn't burn. 2. Fall forward even when you're falling apart. You will fall. You will break. But make sure every fall is forward, every crack is where the light gets in. Here the idea is that setbacks are setups for something greater. Denzel often talks about forward momentum even in failure. So this keynote inspires people to collapse in the direction of their calling, to fall into purpose, not away from it. 3. Your breaking point is God's building point. Sometimes life has to shatter you so heaven can shape you. God doesn't waste pain, he repurposes it. In this keynote, the spiritual element shines. When life hurts, that's often when divine transformation begins. It captures Denzel's signature mix of biblical truth and street-level honesty, reminding the audience that what's breaking you is also blessing you. 4. The delay is not the denial, it's the development. Just because it hasn't happened yet doesn't mean it's not coming. In the waiting, you're being made. This keynote brings hope to the hurting. Life's delays feel like rejection, but they are often seasons of preparation. In Denzel's style, this keynote speaks to faith, patience, and the discipline of trusting the process, even when it feels like nothing's working. The delay is not the denial, it's the development. There are moments in life when time feels like the enemy. You've prayed, planned, prepared, and still you wait. The vision you've seen so clearly hasn't come to pass. The door you've knocked on remains closed. The answer you were certain would come hasn't arrived. And in those quiet spaces between hope and fulfillment, pain settles in. Not because you're weak, but because waiting hurts. Especially when you've given your all, done everything right, and still, life hasn't delivered what you expected. But what if the delay isn't a punishment? What if it's a process? What if the space between your asking and your receiving isn't empty at all, but full of invisible work forming the person you're becoming? Delay often masquerades as denial. When life hurts and nothing seems to be moving, the natural conclusion is to assume the answer is no. But delay is not the same as denial. Just because it hasn't happened yet doesn't mean it's not going to happen. Sometimes what you're calling stuck is really being shaped. What you call waiting is really working. Not on the outside Dino flashing signs, no breaking news, but on the inside deep internal construction where endurance, character, and strength are being built brick by invisible brick. It's easy to believe when everything is happening on schedule. It's easy to trust when doors are opening, but faith isn't forged in success, it's formed in silence. When nothing is happening, when everything is still, that's when true strength is built. That's when you decide whether you're chasing a moment or committed to a mission. Because purpose takes time. Destiny isn't a microwave meal, it's a slow-cooked transformation. And real development doesn't shout, it whispers. It doesn't post updates, it requires patience. You've been planted, not buried. That's what you have to understand about delay. There's a difference between being covered up and being rooted. Seeds go underground and disappear before they ever rise. For a season, nothing seems to change. But below the surface, something is shifting. The delay isn't death, it's development. It's a season of unseen growth, silent stretching, and deep preparation. The roots have to go down before the fruit can come up. If everything you asked for came when you asked for it, you wouldn't be ready to handle it. You're asking for a harvest, but have you been trained for the weight of it? You're praying for promotion, but are your habits ready for that level of pressure? A blessing that comes too soon can become a burden. Delay is often mercy in disguise. Not because you're not meant for the blessing, but because the blessing is meant to meet a more mature version of you. Delay doesn't mean never, it means not yet. And not yet is not a punishment, it's a preparation. There's a refining process happening in your waiting. Think about how gold is purified. It's not made valuable just by being found, it's made pure by going through fire. Delay can feel like fire, like pressure, like discomfort. But pressure makes diamonds, fire purifies gold. Delay develops resilience. You are being refined, not rejected. The heat you feel in your life is not destroying you, it's developing you. You're being molded into someone who can carry the calling, not just crave the crown. So many people want destiny without discipline. They want promotion without preparation. They want the platform without going through the process. But anything that lasts has been built, and building takes time. Skyscrapers don't rise in a day. Foundations go down first, and the deeper the foundation, the higher the structure can go. If your life feels like it's going backward, if it feels like you're sinking, it may be because your foundation is being laid for something higher than you've imagined. Don't curse the season of waiting. Don't resent the hidden years. Don't despise the quiet, the delay, the feeling of being overlooked. Because in those moments, you're not being neglected, you're being nurtured. Some of your greatest growth will come when no one is clapping. Some of your most powerful development will happen in obscurity. Because in obscurity, you're not performing, you're becoming. Character is built in the dark. Integrity is forged in private. And development doesn't happen when everyone's watching, it happens when no one sees. That's where the real work is. That's where the roots go deep. Delay teaches you to hold on when nothing's happening. It teaches you to stay faithful when no one's noticing. And that kind of faithfulness, that's the stuff that lasts. That's the stuff legacy is made from. Think about this. What if you were given exactly what you want right now? Would it truly fulfill you, or would it crush you? Would you be ready to manage it, or would it manage you? Development is not about denying you your dream. It's about preparing you to sustain it when it comes. There's a version of you that the future is waiting for. And the delay is giving you time to meet that version. Sometimes the delay is not even about you. Sometimes it's about aligning people, resources, and timing in a way that's far bigger than your understanding. You're thinking about what you want now. But there's a greater plan unfolding that involves not just your success, but your impact. Delay can mean alignment. It can mean synchronization of purpose across people and places you've never even considered. So what feels like a no is really a wait. And what feels like a loss is really a lesson. You don't always have to see it to believe it. Some of the most powerful work is done in silence. A caterpillar disappears into a cocoon before becoming a butterfly. In that dark, tight, silent space, something majestic is happening. Not overnight, not instantly, but inevitably. There's no shortcut to becoming. There's no fast track to maturity. You go through it. You grow through it. And while you're in the middle of delay, don't stop moving. Delay is not a signal to quit, it's a call to develop. Keep showing up. Keep building. Keep growing. Don't let silence make you doubt the promise. Don't let time cause you to forget the vision. Your job is not to control the outcome. Your job is to prepare for it. Show up like it's coming. Train like it's tomorrow. Build like it's already real. Because what you do in delay is what qualifies you for destiny. Think about all the great stories that inspired young one of them skipped the process. The heroes weren't crowned without a fight. The breakthroughs didn't come without a battle. If you're hurting right now, if you're waiting, if you feel forgotten, maybe you're just in chapter 3 of a 10-chapter story. Don't stop reading your life at the worst part. Don't close the book before the plot unfolds. You're not at the end, you're in the middle. And the middle is messy, but it's also where the most important work is done. Delay teaches you to listen, to slow down, to look inward, to find strength you didn't know you had, to strip away what doesn't serve your future, to silence the noise and focus on the voice. Not every delay is an enemy. Some delays are divine. They reroute you not to destroy you, but to deliver you to something greater. You didn't miss it, you're being redirected. And redirection is not rejection. It's protection. Sometimes life hurts not because it's against you, but because it's adjusting you. Pain is a teacher. Time is a trainer. Delay is a developer. And while the world rushes, you're being refined. While others are sprinting, you're being shaped. That's not weakness, that's wisdom. That's how oak trees grow. Deep roots, long seasons, slow development, but unshakable strength. So if it's taking longer than you thought, don't panic. If it hurts more than you expected, don't give up. If it feels silent and still, don't assume the story's over. The delay is not the end. It's not denial, it's development. You are not being punished. You are being prepared. You are not forgotten. You are being formed. Something is being built in you that time cannot take and pressure cannot break. That's what development does. That's what delay creates. You are not late. You are not behind. You are right on time for your journey, your growth, your story. The timing is not just about the result, it's about the readiness. It's about becoming who you need to be so you can carry what's coming without crumbling. Delay shapes that person. Delay forms that capacity. Delay builds that foundation. Every season of delay is a school. It teaches patience, perseverance, self-control, faith, and discipline. Qualities that will not just help you get to your destiny, but stay there. And not just stay, but thrive. A quick rise can lead to a fast fall. But when you're built in delay, you're built to last. You're built to endure storms, handle pressure, and lead with wisdom. Look around, see where you are. It may not look like much, but if you look closely, you'll see the signs. The small growth, the silent strength, the hidden progress. Delay doesn't always announce itself with trumpet blasts. It speaks in the steady rhythm of daily faithfulness. Keep showing up. Keep believing, keep building. You're not being denied, you're being developed. Let time do its work. Let the process do its job. Let life form you in the fire. What's being created in you is far greater than what you're waiting to receive. Because one day the delay will lift. The door will open, the dream will arrive, and you'll realize you're not just ready, you were built for it. And when that moment comes, it will not have come too soon. It will have come right on time to the one who was patient enough to wait, strong enough to grow, and wise enough to trust the delay. Built in the silence, ready for the storm. There's something sacred about silence, especially the silence that comes after the storm of expectation and the crash of unmet timelines. When the clock ticks louder than your prayers. When the calendar becomes a critic instead of a calendar. When every new day seems to whisper nothing yet. You're forced into an environment where you either crumble or construct. In that stillness, where it feels like you've been forgotten, that's when the real work begins. Because everything loud in life is built on something quiet. Trees grow tall in silence. Mountains rise slowly. Oceans deepen without applause. And you, your strength, your wisdom, your resilience are growing in that same silence. Don't confuse stillness with stagnation. There is movement in the quiet. There is progress in the pause. Just because it doesn't look like anything is shifting doesn't mean your development has stopped. In fact, it may be more active than ever, but in a realm you can't yet see. You're learning how to master the intangible: patience, faith, self-restraint, humility. And these qualities don't shout, they whisper. They grow in the dark, behind the scenes, away from the spotlight. Yet they are the very pillars that will support you when life gets loud again. When life hurts, it's easy to become impatient. Pain screams, delay whispers. And in the tension between those two voices, many people abandon the process. They trade development for distraction. They exchange the slow grind of growth for the temporary ease of escape. But pain avoided is pain prolonged, and development delayed is purpose diminished. If you want to be more than a flash in the pan, if you want to carry something that lasts, you have to lean into the discipline of development, especially when it's quiet, when it's uncomfortable, when it doesn't make sense. This is where emotional maturity is born. It's not birthed on mountaintops. It's formed in valleys. Emotional strength doesn't come from applause, it comes from adversity. And adversity is not the enemy of purpose, it's the evidence of it. You're being shaped by what you're surviving. Every delay is layering your character, sharpening your discernment, deepening your empathy, refining your motives. You're not just being prepared for success, you're being prepared to handle success without it handling you. That's why you can't measure progress only by visible outcomes. A lot of development happens without a platform. Some of your greatest breakthroughs won't be seen, they'll be felt. They'll show up in your ability to say no to what used to tempt you. They'll be reflected in your patience when others rush. They'll manifest in your ability to lead without needing applause, to love without needing reciprocation, to stand even when support disappears. That's the mark of someone who's been developed, not just discovered. You don't need to announce every move. You don't need to explain every season. You don't need validation to make progress. What's being built in the delay will speak for itself in due time. But you got to stay the course. Stay focused, stay grounded. Don't let insecurity drive you to act prematurely. Don't let other people's timelines pressure you into stepping before you're ready. What's meant for you won't miss you, but you can miss it if you step out of sync with the development process. Every delay is an invitation to deepen your trust, not just in the outcome, but in who you're becoming. Because what you become in the process is more important than what you receive at the end of it. That's the paradox of purpose. It's not just about arriving, it's about becoming. And when you've been built in delay, you'll arrive with more than a destination, you'll arrive with depth. Too often, we want arrival without alignment. We want results without refinement. But if you show up to your calling without being shaped for it, you'll crumble under the weight of it. That's why delay is mercy. It's not punishment, it's protection. It keeps you from receiving what you're not ready to carry. It's easy to want the crown, but the crown is heavy. It requires shoulders that have been strengthened not just with success, but with struggle. So many people chase visibility before they've developed the stamina to sustain it. But anything that comes too soon can sabotage your future. That's why patience is not passive, it's powerful. Waiting well is an act of faith. It says, I trust the process even when I can't predict the timeline. And that level of trust builds something in you that's unshakable. It develops not just skill, but stewardship. You don't just learn how to get the blessing, you learn how to carry it, protect it, multiply it, and not lose yourself in it. You're not just being shaped for the promise, you're being shaped to last. Because destiny without discipline is disaster. Vision without virtue is vanity. What you're waiting for is not just coming, it's being crafted to match who you're becoming. And that's worth the delay. That's worth the silence. That's worth the discomfort. When you've been developed, the storm doesn't scare you. The spotlight doesn't seduce you. The setback doesn't shake you. Because you know you were built in silence for this very moment. Delay strips away illusions. It removes the noise. It exposes motives. In the quiet, you begin to see what really matters. The people who really stand by you. The values that truly guide you. The passions that persist even when there's no payoff. This clarity is a gift. And it doesn't come in fast seasons, it comes in slow ones. It's in the waiting that you remember who you are, what you believe, and why you started. And while you wait, don't wait empty-handed. Develop, read, learn, heal, reflect, serve, give, grow. This is not wasted time, it's investment time. You're sowing seeds in a delay that will produce fruit in due season. And if you stay faithful in this season, the next season won't catch you unprepared. You'll be ready, not just externally, but internally. That's the goal of the delay, to make sure your character can carry your calling. This isn't just about surviving the delay, it's about thriving in it. Using the time to become the kind of person who can walk into the next level with integrity, humility, and vision. The kind of person who doesn't just succeed but sustains, who doesn't just shine but stands, who doesn't just rise but leads. That kind of person is rare, but they're formed in seasons like this. Not in the spotlight, not on the stage, but in the shadows, in the quiet, in the hidden place where only faith and discipline keep you moving. So ask yourself, what is this delay forming in me? What strength is being forged? What weakness is being revealed? What habits are being broken or built? What lessons am I learning in the silence that I couldn't hear in the noise? Don't waste this delay trying to skip it. Let it work. Let it shape you. Let it prepare you. And remember, every person you admire went through their own delay. You see their results, but not their process. You see the platform, but not the pain. You see the elevation, but not the excavation. Everyone you respect paid a price. And their delay was part of the development. So don't envy their destination, embrace your journey. Your path is being custom built for you. And that means your delay is tailored for your destiny. There will be days when you want to quit, when the silence feels louder than the promise, when you question whether the vision was real, when the pain overshadows the plan. But that's not the time to walk away, it's the time to dig deeper, to press in, to lean on what you know, not what you feel. To trust what was spoken to you in the light, even when you're walking through the dark. You may not be able to see the full picture yet, but that doesn't mean there isn't one. You're still in the brushstrokes. The canvas isn't complete. But every day, every tear, every prayer, every lesson, it's all part of the masterpiece. And when the time comes, when the curtain lifts, you'll realize you weren't waiting in vain. You were being shaped in silence. And you walk into your moment not as a surprise, but as someone who was sculpted for it all along. Keep going, keep building, keep trusting the delay. It's not denial, it's development. And what's forming in you now is preparing you for what's coming next. You're not missing out, you're being made ready. You're not being overlooked, you're being overhauled. And when the fullness of time arrives, you'll be able to say with clarity and confidence that every second in the silence was worth it because it built the foundation for everything you're about to carry. When life hurts, it doesn't ask for your permission. It doesn't check your schedule or wait for your convenience. It shows up with weight, it shows up with questions. And often it shows up when you're least equipped to handle it. But here's the paradox. The moments that make you feel least ready are often the moments that prepare you the most. Pain strips away what's superficial. When you're hurting, you're no longer interested in pretending. You're no longer capable of masking insecurity with performance or fear with false bravado. Pain demands honesty. It brings everything to the surface, every doubt, every fear, every insecurity you tried to bury under busyness. But it also invites something deeper, authenticity. It's in the furnace of pain that your true self is forged. The part of you that doesn't need approval to believe. The part of you that doesn't need applause to continue. The part of you that can withstand pressure without compromising purpose. This is what the delay is doing. It's not just asking you to wait, it's demanding that you transform. Not because the blessing is far away, but because you must be fortified enough to meet it. You're not being tested for torture. You're being tested to be trusted. Trusted with influence, trusted with impact, trusted with leadership. Because influence without integrity is manipulation. And power without preparation becomes destruction. So you're being broken down in the quiet, not because you're forgotten, but because you're chosen. There's a kind of wisdom that doesn't come from textbooks or TED Talks. It comes from walking through seasons where nothing made sense and yet you kept going. That's the kind of wisdom life painfully delivers. Not overnight, not all at once, but piece by piece through delayed promises, closed doors, quiet betrayals, lonely nights. And every one of those moments is shaping something inside of you that no fast-track blessing ever could. You have to understand, you're not just learning how to achieve, you're learning how to endure. The race you're running isn't a sprint, it's a marathon. And in marathons, speed is secondary to stamina. Endurance is the goal. You're developing the spiritual and emotional muscles to withstand what others can't even see, and it's not glamorous. There are no trophies for patience, no medals for waiting well. But the reward comes when you reach the moment you were designed for, and you don't collapse under its weight because you've been conditioned by the process. Life hurts when people misunderstand you, when your intentions are misjudged, when your heart is pure but the outcome is messy. In those moments, you're tempted to give up on people, to isolate, to shut down. But don't. Even in the pain, you're learning how to love without needing control, how to serve without demanding appreciation, how to give without always receiving. That kind of character is what makes you untouchable, by avoiding hurt, but by growing through it. The process of becoming is uncomfortable. That's the truth people don't always tell you. Everyone talks about destiny, but few explain the detours. Few describe the deserts. But the desert is just as necessary as the destination, because it's in the desert where you stop, depending on other people to validate you. It's where you stop relying on circumstances to give you peace. It's where you learn how to walk by faith and not by sight, because there's nothing to see, nothing to cling to, nothing to control. And once you've been through that kind of process, you come out different. Not flashy, not loud, but grounded, quietly powerful, rooted. You're not easily swayed by opinion anymore. You're not rattled by delay. You know who you are and whose you are. You don't flinch at adversity because you've already survived worse. You've been built in the silence. And now, you're ready for the storm. Let's talk about storms. Because some people think storms mean something went wrong. But storms are not the absence of God's favor. They're often the proof of it. They indicate you're moving in purpose, that you're advancing in destiny. And as you ascend, resistance rises with you. Higher levels attract stronger winds. And you can't expect a storm-free life when you've been called to live at a higher altitude. But here's the beauty of what delay does. It gives you roots deep enough to withstand the winds. It grounds you before you rise. So when the winds come, and they will, you don't break. You bend. You adapt. You adjust. But you stay standing. Because you weren't built for comfort, you were built for purpose. And purpose can't be shaken by temporary setbacks. You have to start seeing your setbacks not as stop signs, but as signposts. They're not saying you're finished. They're saying you're being forged. And when you start to interpret your pain as preparation instead of punishment, everything changes. You stop resenting the delay. You start respecting it. You start using it. And that's where transformation happens, not just in your circumstances, but in your mindset. Mindset is everything in this season. If your mind is not aligned, your vision will get distorted. You'll start seeing obstacles where there are opportunities. You'll start hearing rejection where there's only redirection. So you have to guard your mind in the delay. Feed it faith, starve it of doubt, surround it with truth. Because what happens in your mind will determine what happens in your life. And don't think that just because you're in pain, you're unproductive. Growth doesn't always look like success. Sometimes it looks like surviving when you could have quit. Sometimes it looks like waking up and trying again. Sometimes it looks like choosing hope, even when hopelessness feels more logical. That's growth. That's development. And it's happening right now, even if you can't measure it with milestones. Stop comparing your journey to others. Comparison is a thief. It steals joy, confidence, and clarity. Just because someone else got there faster doesn't mean you're behind. You're not in a race with them, you're in alignment with purpose. And purpose has its own timeline. Stop scrolling through social media thinking you're failing just because someone else posted a win. You don't know their delay, you don't know their tears. Focus on your lane, water your soil, trust your process. The truth is, most people won't understand what you're carrying. That's why it's heavy. It's not for them to understand, it's for you to carry. You were given the vision. You were handed the assignment. And yes, it hurts, but pain has purpose when it's surrendered to process. The delay you're in is not a denial. It's not God saying no. It's life saying not yet. And in that not yet, you're being taught how to trust, how to wait, and how to build something unshakable. You're not just being prepared for an open door, you're being prepared to walk through it with authority. So when you get there, you don't hesitate, you don't shrink, you don't self-sabotage. You stand tall not because it was easy, but because you earned every step. You were faithful in the fire. You stayed when it didn't make sense. You worshiped when there was no breakthrough. And that's what gives your arrival power, not the platform, but the process. Now is the time to dig in, to do the inner work, to build in obscurity, to develop disciplines that nobody claps for, to plant seeds in the dark, because one day the season will shift. The rain will come, the light will break through, and what you cultivated in the silence will bloom for the world to see, but you won't be surprised. You'll know it was never overnight. It was built moment by moment, decision by decision, tear by tear. Keep working, keep believing, keep preparing. Don't get tired in the wait. Don't let fatigue become your identity. Don't let pain speak louder than promise. Silence the noise. Find your center. And remember, when life hurts, it's not always breaking you. Sometimes it's building you in ways comfort never could. You're not being overlooked. You're being developed. And what's forming in you now will be the very thing that sustains you when the next level arrives. What you're going through right now, this pain, this delay, this disappointment, is not where your story ends. It's where the deeper story begins. Because when life hurts, it doesn't just bruise your emotions. It awakens your awareness. It forces you to ask questions you might have avoided. It demands a different kind of strength. Not the kind that looks good in photos or sounds nice in speeches, but the kind of strength that is quiet, consistent, and forged in fire. Real strength isn't loud. It's not proven in a moment of applause. It's measured in the long haul, in how you show up when nothing's working, in how you treat people when you're hurting, in how you stay faithful when your plans fall apart. That's where you discover what you're really made of. Not when the sun is shining, but when the sky turns gray and you still got to move forward through the storm. And don't be fooled. There are lessons in the storm that comfort will never teach you. When everything's going your way, you don't have to develop discernment. When all your prayers are being answered, you don't have to stretch your faith. But when the heavens go silent and the answers don't come, that's when you learn how to walk not by sight, not by emotion, but by conviction. That's where your roots go deeper. That's where you learn that your purpose is bigger than your pain. There's a development that only happens in darkness. Seeds grow underground before they ever break through the surface. You don't see their progress. You don't hear their struggle. But something powerful is happening beneath the soil. Pressure, stretching, formation. The seed doesn't complain about the soil. It doesn't resist the dirt. It simply keeps growing, pushing, reaching until it's ready to rise. That's you right now. You may feel buried, forgotten, misunderstood, delayed, but you're not done. You're developing, your roots are growing, your strength is forming. You're learning how to trust not in what you see, but in what you know, that there's something greater on the other side of this pain, and the only way to it is through it. You got to stop thinking that hurt means you're broken beyond repair. Sometimes hurt means you're breaking through old ways of thinking, breaking through lies you believed about yourself, breaking through the need to perform. Sometimes the pain is pulling you out of what's comfortable because comfort has been killing your growth. Growth and comfort don't live in the same place. If you're truly growing, you will be uncomfortable. There will be pressure, there will be stretching, but don't run from it. Lean into it. Let it shape you. Let it refine you. Let it make you stronger. You're not just going through this, you're growing through this. You're becoming someone who can handle what you once prayed for. This is why you can't afford to rush the process. You don't want to be handed the next level before you're ready to carry it. A platform can elevate you, but it cannot sustain you. That's what character is for. That's what integrity is for. And character doesn't develop in the spotlight, it develops in the silence, in the waiting room, in the seasons where nobody sees the work you're doing, but you do it anyway. Some of the most powerful things you'll ever carry will never be seen by others. Inner peace, wisdom, humility. These are the treasures that are formed when life hurts, and you keep showing up anyway. When you could choose bitterness, but instead you choose growth. When you could shut down, but instead you stay open. When you could give up, but you take one more step. And those steps, those quiet, faithful, unseen steps, will eventually add up to something undeniable. Not overnight, not on your preferred timeline, but they will add up. And when the breakthrough comes, you'll know that it wasn't luck, it wasn't just timing, it was the fruit of faithfulness. You didn't just survive, you were sculpted. You didn't just wait, you were woven. Too many people want the reward without the wait. They want success without sacrifice. They want blessings without building. But it doesn't work like that. What lasts is built slowly. It's built intentionally, it's built through trial and testing. And you don't want a blessing you're not built to carry. You don't want a door that opens before your foundation is ready. So thank God for the delay. It's protecting you more than it's punishing you. You may not feel it, but you are being prepared. Every hard day is teaching you how to fight. Every closed door is sharpening your focus. Every unanswered prayer is building your faith. And every detour is developing your resilience. You're not just being held back, you're being held together. It takes more strength to wait than it does to rush. It takes more courage to trust than it does to manipulate. It takes more faith to rest than it does to strive. But that's the kind of person you're becoming. And when life tries to convince you that nothing is changing, you remind yourself that everything is changing, even if the change is happening in places no one can see. Your future is not a product of chance. It's a product of how you respond when everything feels delayed. That's where destinies are shaped. Not in the yes, but in the not yet. Not in the open doors, but in the locked ones. And how you walk through this delay will determine how high you rise when your time comes. So walk with intention, even when it's hard, even when it's quiet, even when it feels like nothing's moving. Don't let pain push you out of your purpose. Don't let loneliness cause you to lower your standards. Don't let impatience make you settle for something smaller than you were created for. Stay focused, stay faithful, stay in position. Because what's forming in you right now is going to be your foundation, not just for the next opportunity, but for the next opposition. Not just for the next door, but for the next difficulty. Because here's the truth, elevation doesn't eliminate pressure, it increases it. And if you can learn how to carry weight in the wilderness, you'll be able to walk with strength in the spotlight. You were never meant to break under pressure. You were meant to bend, to stretch, to grow. And if you're feeling the strain, that doesn't mean you're failing. It means you're evolving. You're stepping into a version of yourself that doesn't flinch when life gets hard. You're becoming the kind of person who can be trusted, not just with blessing, but with burden. People want power, but they forget that power comes with problems. People want visibility, but they forget that visibility comes with vulnerability. People want leadership, but they forget that leadership means serving when you're tired, standing when you're attacked, and loving when you're misunderstood. So yes, it hurts. But what's being formed in you now is going to sustain you later. You're not weak because you feel pain. You're strong because you keep going. You're strong because you keep believing. You're strong because you keep showing up even when it's hard. Strength isn't the absence of struggle. It's the ability to move through struggle without losing your soul. And you're doing that every day, quietly, faithfully. One day, you'll look back on this season and realize it wasn't the end, it was the beginning. Not the breakdown, but the buildup. Not the failure, but the foundation. And what felt like a delay was actually divine alignment. It was protection in disguise. It was growth in disguise. It was grace in disguise. But for now, all you have to do is keep building in the dark, in the quiet, in the tears, in the tension. Keep building the version of you that's ready for the next level. Because when that door opens saying it will, you won't walk in hoping you're ready. You'll walk in knowing you've been built for this all along. There's something sacred about finishing what you started, especially when it hurt, especially when it felt like quitting would have been easier, more logical, more justifiable. But if life has taught you anything in this season, it's that easy won't elevate you. It's pain that refines, delay that develops, and pressure that purifies. By now you've lived through storms that would have crushed others, but you didn't break. You bent, you stretched, you questioned, you even cried, but you didn't quit. And that's the victory most people miss. They're so focused on the outcome that they forget the strength it took just to stay in the fight. But that's what separates people who grow from people who give up the ability to stay rooted when everything is being shaken. Because growth doesn't ask for your feelings, it asks for your faithfulness. It doesn't wait for your convenience, it demands your commitment. And when life hurts, it doesn't mean you're not growing. It often means you're growing in ways you can't yet measure. You're building spiritual muscle, mental fortitude, emotional depth. And it's happening every single time you choose to move forward, when everything inside you is screaming to turn back. But let's tell the truth. It's lonely sometimes. The process of becoming doesn't always come with applause. Most of it happens in secret, uncelebrated, unrecognized. You're doing the work in the dark, hoping the light will come. You're sowing seeds in faith, not even sure what the harvest will look like. But the promise is not that you'll always see the fruit instantly. The promise is that what you sow in faith will never be wasted. So don't let temporary darkness convince you the light is never coming. It is. But your job isn't to manufacture the harvest. Your job is to remain faithful in the planting. To water your vision, even when your eyes are filled with tears. To speak life over your future, even when your voice is shaky. That's how you outlast the delay. That's how you break through the pain. Not by being fearless, but by being faithful. Faithfulness is often mistaken for stagnation by people who don't understand process. They'll look at your stillness and call it laziness. They'll see your patience and call it weakness. But they don't know what it takes to stay planted when everything around you looks barren. They don't know the discipline it takes to hold your posture while you wait for your moment. But you do, and that's why you're still here. You've had to watch other people get what you prayed for. You've had to congratulate others while quietly wondering when it would be your turn. You've had to hold doors open for others while feeling like every door for you was locked, but you did it anyway. You served, you supported, you smiled. Not because you didn't feel the weight, but because you chose purpose over pity. That's strength, that's maturity, That's real growth. And now, something inside you has shifted. You no longer measure success by speed. You no longer crave approval like you once did. You're no longer desperate for the shortcut because you've seen what the process can do. You're no longer asking, when will it happen? You're asking, how can I stay ready? That's when you know the process has done its work. Not because your life looks perfect, but because your soul is finally aligned. You've stopped chasing the validation that used to distract you. You've stopped explaining yourself to people who were committed to misunderstanding you. You've stopped trying to prove your worth to the world because you've learned that worth isn't something you earn, it's something you remember. And pain has a way of helping you remember. It strips away what's performative and reminds you what's permanent. Now you're anchored, you're grounded. You've learned to stop seeking peace in things that are unstable. You've stopped putting your joy in the hands of people who don't know how to carry it. You've taken back your power not with pride, but with clarity. The kind of clarity that comes from silence. The kind of clarity that can only be born through surrender. You become dangerous to doubt, not because you're invincible, but because you've made peace with the process. You're no longer intimidated by delay. You've seen too much. You've grown too deep. You've walked through too much fire to be rattled by the opinions of people who weren't there for your wilderness. They weren't there when you had to worship with nothing in your hands. They weren't there when you had to believe without any evidence. They weren't there when you had to keep going on empty. But now you know what hurt you didn't halt you, what delayed you didn't destroy you, and what almost broke you became the very thing that built you. Because there's a version of you now that didn't exist before the pain. A version that's more resilient, more focused, more compassionate. You don't carry bitterness, you carry wisdom. You don't walk in resentment, you walk in revelation. You don't operate from insecurity, you operate from insight. And that insight came from enduring seasons others didn't even know you were going through. That's what it means to be built in the silence. To be refined when nobody's clapping. To be faithful when nobody's watching. To be disciplined when no one's cheering. That's how you become unshakable. That's how you carry peace into chaos. That's how you become a light knot. Because everything in your life is perfect, but because you've learned how to shine even when the lights go out. You no longer need external things to validate internal truths. You don't need a title to lead. You don't need a platform to influence. You don't need a breakthrough to be bold. Because what you carry now isn't surface, it's substance. And substance doesn't fade with time. It grows with it. It gets deeper, stronger, more powerful. And it was forged through fire. That fire, the hurt, the delay, the silence, was not sent to destroy you. It was sent to reveal you. It uncovered parts of you that were hidden, strength you didn't know you had, faith you never had to use before, grit that was lying dormant until life shook you. And now that it's awake, nothing can put it back to sleep. You're awake now, aware, not just of what's possible, but of what's required. And what's required isn't perfection, it's presence, it's resilience, it's obedience in the face of uncertainty, it's consistency in the absence of clarity. That's how you show life you're ready. Not with declarations, but with decisions. Not with hype, but with humility. So take inventory of what this season taught you. Not just what it took from you, but what it gave you. The endurance, the perspective, the discernment, the boundaries, the depth, the wisdom. These are the tools that will guide you in the next chapter. These are the gifts that were hidden in the grief, and you earned every one of them. Now you stand taller, not because you've arrived, but because you're anchored. And when you're anchored, you're not easily moved. You're not shaken by delay. You're not distracted by detours. You're not destroyed by disappointment. You've been through too much to fall for the same lies. You've healed too much to settle for the same cycles. You know what you carry now. And because you know, you can't go back. Not to comfort, not to compromise, not to confusion. You've outgrown that version of you. You've shed that skin. You've buried that fear. And what's emerging now is purpose in its purest form, unfiltered, undiluted, undeniable. You've become the kind of person who doesn't just survive the storm, you speak to it. You calm it with presence. You stand in the middle of it with unshakable peace, because your peace is no longer circumstantial. It's rooted in conviction. And conviction doesn't fade when life gets loud. So let life get loud. Let delays come. Let detours appear. You've been built in the silence. You've been fortified in the fire. You've been trained in the tension. And when the time comes, and it will, you'll be ready. Not because everything is perfect, but because everything has purpose. You don't need easy. You need purpose. You don't need fast. You need faith. You don't need applause. You need alignment. And you have it now. You've found your rhythm. You've learned how to walk even when the road disappears. You've learned how to breathe even when the air is heavy. You've learned how to believe even when your heart is breaking. That's what it means to be built. Built through battles no one saw. built through nights no one noticed, built through decisions no one applauded, built through tears no one acknowledged. But it was in those moments you were becoming. You weren't just going through it, you were growing through it. And what you've grown into now can never be taken away. You're not who you used to be, you're not where you thought you'd be, but you are exactly where you need to be, in process, in purpose, in peace. Because when life hurts, that's not the end. It's just the beginning of something greater than you imagined. And now you're ready. Built in the silence, ready for the storm,